Carlos Famoso Hernandez, thank you for coming on to TheBoxingBar.com, my friend. Welcome, man.
I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for having me on.
It's been a bit. I think I had you on twice before. The second time, though, was, I believe, the services of Johnny Tapia were going on live, and we were talking about that a little bit, and I was watching it on the screen while talking to you, and you were sharing some stories about Johnny Tapia. That was several years back, man. It's a pleasure, man, to finally get you back on this last time, man. I know we've kept in touch over the years through little messages here and there, man, but how's everything over there in San Antonio at the moment?
Well, actually, San Antonio has been hit very hard with the last week. We've even had Amber Alert going that we cannot be without our mask. If you get caught without your mask, you'll be fined $250. It was at number 3 fastest growing COVID cases in the country. Now it dropped down to number 5, so it's still pretty hairy. I mean, we even took my son. I thought maybe because he's still playing soccer, indoor soccer, but some of the kids, we try to make sure that everyone's safe. But one of the kids had it. He got it, and so my son plays with them, and so we were kind of hoping, my kid didn't get it, but thank God we took him to get tested and he didn't have it. So I mean, the family, we're fine, thank God.
Crazy and scary situations, and it's been happening a lot more and more lately, especially in Southern California, where you and I are both originally from, and the cases are going up there as well. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers are, but they're going up. And then you, like you said, you had your son doing athletic type games or whatever. You also have your daughter in gymnastics too, so it's kind of scary, take your kids out at this time.
It is. I mean, we had the World Championships this year in Switzerland in June, but that was postponed till next year. So, I mean, it really messes up their schedule. I mean, not only that they could get contaminated or get sick, a lot of things just all over the world for everyone has been messed up with all this, and it's just unbelievable to think the things that have happened because of all this, and it's just a big shame. But at the end of the day, we have to be positive and thank God. I thank God, I'm here with my children. That's what I have, and my parents. So they're older. My dad is 80 years old, but he's still strong. But sometimes he gets a little stubborn and wants to go outside and wants to go cruise, like if he's back in LA or something.
That's true, man. I was talking about, I think I was talking to Librardo Andrade about this about a month ago when I had him on, and we're saying, you know what? There's nothing positive about this virus, obviously, but the positive that you get out of it is that people are staying home and they're finally understanding what family time is and all that stuff. And in that way, you turn a negative into a positive. And it's true, man. It's a lot of people are spending time with their family now, unlike before.
No, exactly, and that's a blessing. It's been a blessing for me to always be with my kids. My daughter's homeschooled, so I'm always with her. And even if I had I had my gym, my daughter would be with me. It's funny because back in January and February, I was in LA. Working on a deal to open the gym in LA. I was looking at Huntington Park, and I found a spot over there, and everything was going great. Negotiations was going great. And March comes, and it's starting to get pretty bad. And about March 7th, I came back to San Antonio from LA. And a few days after that, they canceled flights, and I've been here ever since. I mean, I went to LA about 2 weeks ago just for a quick trip that I had, but it was just for 3 days I was over there. But I was just basically in lockdown. I didn't do anything over there. I just had to go see somebody and take care of business and come back.
And right now you were talking about going back home. Usually I start my interviews with where were you born and raised type of thing. And I remember you actually were probably the reason why I started asking that being the first question was because I remember I think I came at you and I said, hey, I heard you were born here, from what I read on some notes. And then you told me, no, I was really born here. So after that, I started saying to myself, you know what, I'm going to start asking everybody, where were you born and raised so I don't go by notes anymore. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
just to go ahead and clarify any of that, where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in LA, bro.
Okay.
Raised, I mean, I was raised like in like my teenage years to young adult in Bellflower.
Right.
But I'm from LA, right there near about like 3 miles west from the Staples Center.
Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. See, like I remember, I think the last time I said, "Oh, I heard you were born in El Salvador," and you were like, "No, I was born in L.A. in the L.A. area."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's totally different. But then, as a young kid, you went back to El Salvador to live for a while, right?
Oh yeah. We'd go all the time, and my father was very adventurous, very crazy, and he even drove to El Salvador twice in a Volkswagen. And so, I mean, it was, I grew up with that kind of adventure, going out, having fun. I loved doing long trips like that. It was good, It was good to learn, to see what's out there. I remember my trips going to Mexico and Guatemala, and it was nice, just as a kid doing that, and then living in El Salvador for a little bit and doing crazy things over there. But yeah, man, it was good. It was good. It was nice.
And I know living in LA, a lot of people, right away they say, "Oh, you're from LA, you're Latino, you're most likely Mexican." But, for somebody that's not Mexican and has, they're from Nicaragua or El Salvador or Costa Rica or somewhere else, they actually don't like being called Mexican. Actually, it's like an insult to a lot of them. And a lot of people don't realize that, but it is, And did you go through a lot of that?
I did, brother. I did. That's why I fought a lot, man. I was like, I'm not Mexican. I'm not Mexican. And like a lot of the white kids, when I moved to Bellflower, there's a lot of white kids during that time in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now it's all Mexicano. But back then, there was a lot of white people, and they were like, hey, Mexican, beaner, and all that. I was like, I'm not Mexican, because I'm Salvadorian. And so I was truly fighting for my identity, and I wanted to let that, let people know there's more than just Mexicans. But at the end of the day, bro, there's a new generation, man. There's a new generation of kids that are half Salvadorian, half Mexican. And that's what my children are, and they're proud of it.
You said that you fought a lot on the streets. Did you have a lot of rage growing up? Was there a lot of anger inside of you within yourself, growing up when you were a kid?
There was, I mean, I had an adventurous father, but he was a tough father. He was a tough man. I didn't really agree with the way I was raised. It was tough, I wasn't, I don't know, it was probably like, it was abuse probably in today's terms, but back then it was just like normal, so it was tough, I would, I hated my father basically, when growing up, I was like, what did I do to deserve this kind of father, but, I was a kid, but, now I try to totally change that kind of, upbringing for my children. And be someone different. Although my father is a great guy, but he's still a stubborn man. But I love him to death. And but I try to be different to my children, and hopefully my kids will grow up knowing that I'm always there for them and love them. Not that my father wasn't; he was always there for me, but he was just a tough man.
Growing up in LA, like in the 70s, 80s, there was a lot of toughness. There was a lot of gangs and all that stuff that was when it was probably at its peak, if anything.
Yeah.
Around that, because of that, did you grow up in that type of stuff? Did you grow up with that mentality growing up and as a teenager?
I did. In fact, that's one of the reasons why my father tried to save me. He worked nights. And, but also working nights, he worked, part-time during the day. So he was always like antsy, he was always in a pissed off mood because he didn't get enough sleep. But it wasn't my fault, it's like shit, I'm just a kid. But, he saw that, I was hanging around all, when he was sleeping, I'd be outside hanging around with these fools, that are gangsters, they're guys from, Paramount, gangs from Paramount. I'm not going to say which one, but, he was, got a bunch of buddies from there. And to this day, I'm still friends with them, but they saw the change that I made, and they saw that I changed during my younger years, as a teenager. And so they more than anything, they supported me, these guys. And it's a great feeling. That's why, the ones that are still around, I'm still friends with,
I remember you telling me you went to college. How did you go from being, like what you're saying, like a kid from, hanging out in the streets to actually going into college? How did that all happen?
Well, see, the thing is, I got kicked out of school and I went to an alternative school. It was like I only had 4 hours of school every day except Fridays. I didn't even have to go to school on Fridays. But in actuality, it was hard. It was hard. I thought maybe I could have a regular life. The thing is, I tried to like make a new life for myself, especially in I believe it was in 1990. I tried to make for the Goodwill Games, and I lost in the Goodwill Games, and I was so upset with the amateur style because I clearly beat the guy, but if it were professional, but the guy, I guess, threw a lot more punches or something, you know, in the air, and they gave it to him, and so I got really disenchanted with amateur boxing, so I stopped boxing. I kept training, but I stopped boxing. My father said, do something, man. What are you going to do? Like, all right, well, I'll try college. And so, yeah, I tried college, but it was very hard. I didn't know how to really study. I didn't keep anything in my head. You know, I passed some of these classes, but because I guessed very well. And I did try to do something, but it was just very, very difficult for me because I wasn't taught that in school. You know, it was just basically attending. And you know what? I remember just because I represented the city of Bellflower, you know, I was traveling. I also did karate. I was a black belt in karate, so I was a national champion in karate. And so I was given a lot of awards by the city when I would win my karate tournaments and boxing tournaments. So, you know, it was kind of like a big boost for the school. So I basically passed because I was good in sports.
How did you find boxing in the first place? How did that come into your life?
Well, like I said, my father tried to, you know, keep me away from gangs. And I was with two of my boys. And, you know, we were just hanging out. And my dad said, hey, you know, he already read in the newspaper that there was boxing in Paramount. So he took me to Paramount and took me to train with Mando Huerta. He's a good trainer. He's a trainer at Maywood. He runs the Maywood boxing gym. Right. And he was really one of the guys that really laced the gloves on me, the first guy, and taught me how to, you know, hit the bag, and basically taught me how to do everything. And so I started there, but when I got there and these two guys were with me, you know, they were like, all right, you know, they're two Tolios that they're kind of thought they were bad. And, you know, so did I. I thought they were badasses. And so they put us to spar that first day, and I beat one up, you know, but he was like considered like a good fighter in the street. And so when I beat him up, dude, they were both like, dude, you're a good fighter, man. I liked it, you know, I liked that. I was like, dude, yeah, I think I could do good in this, you know. And so I stayed on it. I stayed with it, and I lost weight because I was a heavy kid, dude. I was 180 pounds at 14 years old. So at 5'6", you know, so, or 5'5", 5'6". So I was like, you know what, I need to lose weight. I want to get me a hot chick, and I want to be in shape. And that's how I started, bro.
And from the two, you know, like you were saying that you were doing boxing and you were doing karate, you know, where did you decide to do one over the other, you know, in that respect?
I still kept training on both of them till like I was about maybe 17 years old. In karate is when I won my my national championship over in Caesar's Palace in Vegas, and that was a very good moment for me in karate. But boxing was always there, you know. I was LA Golden Gloves champion, so I was juggling both things. I was doing all right, you know, and I was doing what I could to stay away from the street, the gangs, and all that. So I was a busy kid. And I loved doing what I was doing, and that was the thing, is nobody had to tell me that I had to do it. Nobody forced me, you know. I did it on my own. And then after I winning the national title, I felt that I started in my other tournaments. I started feeling like I wanted to really punch the guy like with the left hook. And karate wasn't about that, you know. It was about kicking and straight punches and yelling. And so I couldn't do that anymore. I wanted just to knock your head off, you know, and really keep going. Because when you in karate you score a punch, that's it. They stop it. And in boxing, you don't stop. You keep going. And I just wanted to keep going. So I think that's what happened. I stayed involved in karate till like I believe I was 21 years old. I was running my friend's dojo at times. So, it really gave me an opportunity to teach, to learn how to teach children and adults. And so I really liked it. But then I just, at 21 years old, I felt, that's when I turned pro. And I felt I had to put that aside and just really concentrate on boxing.
Why did you decide to go ahead and turn pro as a pro boxer?
Well, it was around New Year's, and it was like January of 1992. It was like the beginning of January, and I was like, you know what? I was on the track team for Cerritos College. I'm like, dude, I'm in good shape, man. And I was always training, I was always dabbling with boxing, I was always in good shape. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to turn pro because I think I remember seeing the guys that were going to go to the Olympic Games was De La Hoya, this guy Pepe Riley, Raul Marquez, and so I saw those guys when I was amateur, Vernon Forrest, and I'm like, dude, you know what? Damn, they're gonna go to freaking Olympics, man. I better turn pro. I better do something, and I better, because I don't want to just be left behind with that class. I didn't have much amateur experience. I had like 29 amateur fights. I had 25 wins, 4 losses, or 24 wins and 5 losses, something like that. But I felt like I got a lot of experience. At 16 years old, I was sparring with world champions. I was sparring with Miguel Hapilora, with Juan Kid Mesa. I mean, these guys were world champions. And I was a teenager, a kid, that just started 2 years prior, and so I was holding my own, and that's what I said. You know what? I felt good going back to being on the track team. I was like in good shape, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna turn pro. What the hell with it? And that's what I did. I turned pro, and 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, I fought, and I got a draw. I got a draw because I was in really good shape, but running shape. But once I thought I'd knock the guy out, he took every shot I gave him. I like blew my wad, and I was like, oh my God, I was tired. So I won the first 2 rounds, and I lost the last 2 rounds. So it was a draw. It was a good call because thank God I didn't lose. I didn't lose. But after that, I said, you know what? I'm going to put school aside, and I'm going to turn pro. And if it doesn't go well for me for 1 year, then I'll go back to school. So I never went back to school.
After that, it was all wins for the next couple dozen fights. How did it feel once you started like building up those fights and started beating them, whether it be by knockout or decision, but winning there in your home area? How did that feel?
No, it felt great. It felt great because not only was I being trained by a legendary trainer, which is Jacky McCloskey back then, and Benny Giorgino. I was in great hands. I was being taught by the best. I thought just perfecting my craft, and so I thought I was doing great. I did what I had to do to become 21-0, 22-0. I think it was. I don't remember. I'm not sure, but I was just I was fighting the guys that were out there and doing well. Thank God. I was just dedicated to boxing. That was my life, and that's what I did.
I didn't even know you're trained by Jacky McCloskey.
Yeah,
that's freaking crazy. Because Jacky McCloskey back in the day, he had guys like Mondo Ramos and Raul Rojas and Richard Steele and these type of guys. They were solid fighters, man. They were the it of LA boxing back in the Olympic days, the heyday of the Olympic days back in the time.
Yeah. My father, I remember my father taking me to the Olympic. I hated going to the Olympic auditorium. I hated. He would smack me in the head and be like, "Watch the fights. I paid the ticket so you can watch the fights." I was like, "Damn, this is boring." He would take me to Main Street Gym to watch these guys train.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember that, and so
why didn't you have that interest that your dad had in the sport?
I have no idea. I think I was more of a calm kid, of a calmer kid. But being raised by my dad, I became more of a kid with a lot of rage and a lot of anger. And now, I was like, now I'm on fire. The hell with that. I'm kind of like a match. I just light up if something happens. And I mean, when it comes to boxing, but I try not to lose control, and because I know once you lose control, you don't do so well. So
I'm looking at your record, and I think of the Great Western Forum, and I know you were a part of that, those heydays back in the day with Prime Ticket and all that stuff. And I remember you fighting a guy named Gregorio Vargas there at
Yeah.
the forum. What do you remember about those days, man, at the forum? And that time, I think I had Robert Garcia on about a month and a half ago or something like that, and we're talking about the Great Western Forum fights, and Barrera came out of there, and you came out of there, and Chicanito came out of there, and all those Chiquito Gonzalez, and so on and so forth. I mean,
Well,
Robert was saying, man, people back at that time, they used to watch from the first fight all the way to the last fight. Now everybody just kind of waits for the main event on Mondays.
Yeah,
and back
and on Monday, exactly.
Yeah, and back in the day, like you watched every fight, but now it's like people just wait for the main event and that's it. Totally different.
Yeah, and sometimes the 4 rounders were even better than the 10 rounders.
Exactly.
But the thing was, at that time, not many people were, but at that time, it was General who was signed by the forum. Mm-hmm. It was me. It was Barrera, Juan Manuel Marquez.
That's right.
Bolívar Gonzalez, Chiquito Gonzalez. But there was another guy. T Sharp Johnson.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we were part of the forum boxing.
Yeah.
Now looking back, man, I mean, I fought I was a co-main event for Chiquito Gonzalez in some of his fights, and I think they were on my undercard was Juan Manuel Marquez and Barrera, because I was before them.
A few fights up from Gregorio Vargas, you fight one of your pals, Chicanito Hernandez, there on November 20th of 1997 at the Olympic Auditorium. What do you remember about that fight? Fighting one of your buddies, fighting somebody that you grew up with and you knew well, and I know that you have a big connection to him as far as friends and stuff. What do you remember about that fight?
Yeah, man. I mean, we used to hang out, man. We do family outings. We go to the lake together. We go to the park together. We have barbecues. I mean, we did. It was like a family. We played soccer together. But once I signed with another group, another management team, and so I kind of like left that stable. And then I left foreign boxing, and then I went with at that time I think it was America Presents, and when they were around, and so I kind of lost a little bit of contact with him, and that's when the fight was offered, and he gave it to me because he was like, if I'm going to have to lose with anybody, how nice it would be to lose to a friend, and so I was very, very happy and touched at the same time, but still, it was a little hard, fighting against a guy. He was my mentor at one time, so I really looked up to him, and I was happy to be part of his success.
And that was for the WBC World Super Featherweight title, your chance to have it, and he won by decision on that one. The next fight up, you fight in El Salvador. What was it like for you to fight there in your native country where your parents are from?
Man, let me tell you something. I had never seen an arena that packed. It was packed with like 15 or 16,000 people, and yelling Famoso. It was a big deal, and the president was there with his cabinet. It was amazing, an amazing feeling that I'll never forget. I mean, I just remember looking up and almost feeling overwhelmed, but I didn't want that to get to me. But it was an amazing experience to have that kind of support from a country and from the people, and it was an amazing time. It was an amazing moment that I'll never forget.
That's a trip. I'm thinking of and just in LA alone, LA history. You think of a Mexican American fighting a Mexican, even though that they're here from this country and we're living in this country, and they get booed by. They get booed for when you fight a Mexican person from Mexico. And, I'm surprised you didn't come out with that answer saying that you had to live up a certain, standard to them. And, like you said, the president came to see you.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some people, they're like, oh, you're not all Salvadoran, you're born in LA. Yeah. And so, I mean, those are the haters, but, right. It doesn't bother me. I love my country more than they do, and so right. That's what it's about. If I don't speak as the Salvadorian Spanish, then I mean it doesn't bother me. I mean, I just say that to me alone in the street, and you'll see what will happen.
A few fights up, you fight at a place that I got in some trouble in a couple of years ago, actually, at Steven's Steakhouse at Commerce. What was it like? What was it like fighting there at Steven's Steakhouse? At a restaurant type facility there.
Of course, it's like a downgrade. You're not fighting at the Forum,
right? But at
Caesars.
But at the same time, you look back at that and say, hey, you know what? That was actually not bad. That's pretty cool, though.
No, it was, and that's how I saw it. This fight was just to get me back on top. To get another title shot. I have to stay busy. I don't care. Let's get the fight. And it was a friend actually that was promoting the fight. So we came to an agreement, and he took care of me. And boom, Fernando Vargas and De La Hoya were there in for front row. I mean, front row was the only row practically, but it was a really good experience. It was dark in there, but it was a good experience to fight at the Steven's Steakhouse.
Oh wow, pretty cool memories there.
Yeah.
And you get a couple of more wins in the next year or so. And then you get a chance to fight again for the WBC World Super Featherweight title. Now you're fighting the guy that even to this day is considered pound for pound in a lot of people's minds the best fighter ever, which is Floyd Mayweather Jr. I know back in the day there was a documentary on you called More Than Famous that was kind of based around this fight. And what do you remember there getting that news that you were going to fight Floyd Mayweather Jr. for that title once again?
Well, okay, I go back with Roger Mayweather because, and I think that's one of the reasons why they chose me to fight, to make a defense. He really liked me, Roger. I really respected him. He was just a great freaking guy. I love the guy. And
may he rest in peace, by the way.
Yeah, may he rest in peace, exactly. And so I have nothing but love for Roger, and I believe that because of Roger, he's like, let's give Carlos a chance. And, maybe he saw that they beat Gennaro easy and, well, maybe not easy, but they beat him fairly easy. And, I had a little bit of problems with Gennaro. I lost. And so, they said, all right, let's give him a shot. So, I trained, I was probably at my best shape ever for any fight was when I fought, Floyd. I really believed in my mind that I was going to win the fight.
Well, that was a tremendous fight there, and it was in Grand Rapids in his backyard. And then you score what's considered an official knockdown on Mayweather. What did that feel like? You're over here scoring a knockdown against a guy that was an Olympian from the '96 Olympics and pound for pound, one of the best or coming up and comers. Well, what did you think of that moment when you got an official knockdown over him?
Well, yeah, at that moment, I was like, all right, how much time do I have left? Geez, so I just need to attack him. I need to attack him. So when I go at him, then the bell rings. I'm like, damn. And so I figured that he was going to, move a lot. When I say run, people get upset with me because he's like, oh, he didn't run. But if you look at the fight, he runs. He moves around a lot. Maybe I shouldn't say run, but he's on, I don't know, I wouldn't say survival mode because he wasn't hurting. Being knocked around, but I was just working him. And that was my plan, is just to keep working him. It was just, to see who the strong survive, and, but he adjusted and he clearly beat me by points, running around, making me miss and moving, surviving, not throwing many shots now because, his hand, but yeah, he did do well. And, I do, appreciate the fact that he gave me a shot. And, I know that, when people mention my name to him, he has said he's a tough motherfucker.
and right now he's at 50-0, and that was exactly at his halfway point because he was 25-0 going into that one. A few fights up, you fight guys like Justin Juco, tough guy, David Santos and these type of guys. Stevie Forbes even, who gave De La Hoya a little bit of trouble, believe it or not, in one of his last fights. What did it feel like they're fighting Stevie Forbes at the Staples Center back in 2003?
That was a good fight for me. Steve Forbes, I did though think he would be an easier opponent just by the fact that I knew he was going to have to make the weight, and he was having weight problems and all that. And you know how they call him 2 pounds Forbes, like too many pounds Forbes. And so he was just, I know he was having a lot of trouble making the weight, but he actually surprised me. He had like a few knockouts, and I was like, oh, I'm going to walk through this guy. I'm really going to walk through this guy. And like in the 4th round, he stunned me. I think that was the first time I was like really ever stunned or wobbled, and that was a wake up call. But I felt I did enough to win the fight, which I was cut by one of the headbutts, and then we went to the scorecards, and thank God I won. But yeah, I really trained very hard though for that fight. I did, even though I was thinking I was going to walk through the guy. I did train. I did put in the work. And at that time, my then wife, she would count my punches. She would count my punches during sparring, during training. So I had to keep up a high level of punching. And that's what I did, and that's how I beat him. And I worked him.
And I didn't even bring up, but right after your fight with Mayweather, it was the fight that you fought on again on the documentary of More Than Famous. You fought in El Salvador, and again in front of the president. And I remember you being interviewed after the fight. You won that fight against Juan Anel Macias there in El Salvador. And I remember you get emotional, just having your people around, the president around, how much this fight meant to you. Going back into that time, what do you remember about that fight?
Well, for that fight, that was actually for the WBC, I think
Latino title,
the Latin American title,
right.
And so it was a big deal to get back on, right on top. I mean, I just fought Mayweather, so this was just to get back on top again on the rankings, and just to stay relevant, stay ready, and be active. I mean, it was a good win. The guy was a little tough, but we got the job done with the knockout to the body. And but it was very emotional as well, because around that time was when it was the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and so part of my team weren't able to come. So but Chato, the guy that made Andy Ruiz, he was there with me. Middleman and Amica Brusa, those were my people, and that went. I missed Chuck Bodak and another fellow that was supposed to be there to work my corner.
What did you think of this whole documentary and the whole experience of doing something like that, where you were the main figure, the main focus on a documentary? What did that feel like?
It felt I had to bring some attention to what's happening to this country with the gang problem and with the Civil War that we had many years ago. But it's there's still suffering there with poverty and all. And not only that, it's a land of volcanoes, so there's like a lot of volcanic movement, a lot of earthquakes. And so there was an earthquake, and it rattled the country, and there was landslides that buried towns. And actually not far from like where I lived, where I had a home. And it's like you could see from my balcony. I mean, you could see where the landslide happened and took that neighborhood out. And so it was very, very touching, very emotional, seeing these children or these parents with no families. They're looking for their families. And at that time when I was there, and it was a shame. It was like where I was standing. I mean, there was a neighborhood when I was standing in El Salvador. I was standing on this piece of land, and underneath were just buried people buried there.
Wow, that's crazy. And back to after your win over Steve Forbes, you fight a legendary Mexican fighter named Eric Morales for the the WBC and the IBF super featherweight title. What do you remember about fighting a guy like Eric Morales back in 2004 at the MGM in Las Vegas?
It was a great experience. Getting in there with the likes of a legend like that was phenomenal. I wasn't afraid. I wanted to fight. I wanted him to stay there and fight with me like he did with Barrera. he did what he had to do. He was very intelligent to just outbox me and connect with the jabs and beat me with the jabs, because I was on him. And but at the end, he changed, he adjusted, and that's what a good champion does. He adjusts, and that's what he did, and that's how he beat me. But to this day, I'm very honored to have faced a great champion like Eric Morales.
A couple fights up, you fight another terrific fighter. His name was Jesus Chavez. A lot of people might not remember that name, but he was a pretty tough little guy. What do you remember about fighting Jesus Chavez there at the Staples Center?
Yeah, no, it was a good fight there at the Staples Center. I thought for sure that fight was going to go my way, fighting at home. But of course, he's Mexican, and so I had the Salvadorian. I'm not saying just because he's Mexican he won, but the crowd, it probably sways a lot of the people. I watched that fight and I'm like, dang, I thought I took that fight,
Yeah.
But he did good as well. I mean, it was a good brawl. I wish we could have had a trilogy, but unfortunately we weren't able to. But I thought it was a good fight that could have gone either way, and it went his way, unfortunately. But all power to him. I really love the guy. The guy's like my compadre, and he's out of here in Texas. I think he's in Dallas right now. But when he comes to town, sometimes he'll invite me for a beer. We'll take pictures, and he's just a good fella, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I like Jesus a lot, but I thought he did lose that fight as well, and you can kind of tell, like you said, it was in LA and it was a split decision. So there was a judge that had it for you as well. I think you just...
and there was a knockdown that wasn't counted in the last round.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
His glove touched the canvas.
Right.
I'm like, but I had to stay in the action. I couldn't stop.
Yeah, so and he heard it from the crowd because he did get booed for that, or the referee got booed for not counting that. But yeah, you're right. The very next fight up, you fight the brother of another legendary fighter, which is Manny Pacquiao's brother, Bobby Pacquiao, which you gave him a pretty solid fight as well. And a lot of people actually thought you won that fight as well, a split decision loss again. But again, you made a pretty good account of yourself, and you gave him some problems there. What do you remember about fighting Bobby Pacquiao?
I remember winning the fight. And I'll tell you something right here. Is that I took my son to Wild Card a few years back, and Freddie Roach was there, and Freddie Roach is a great guy, and he's very honest, and so he tells my kid, Carlos almost got me fired. And, my kid's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, he almost got me fired because I said he won after the fight, no, Carlos won that fight. They stole that fight from Carlos. He won that fight. Yeah. And then the Filipinos are like, oh, God, don't say that, take it back. So when we went to the press conference, he changed his tune and said, oh no, I thought Bobby did enough to win the fight. But at least my son knows the truth. Yeah. He was man enough. Freddie Roach was man enough to tell my son and clear the air with my boy, and I thought that was very, very manly of him, and made me feel very, very special.
Yeah, and trust me, something like that can get him fired and make him lose a lot of money too. So it must have been he must have really thought that you won that.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, even though the win didn't go my way, I know deep down that things like this happen in a dirty business.
Oh, absolutely. A few fights up, you find another very tough guy, the Flush and Flash, Kevin Kelly, over in San Antonio, where you now live. What was it like fighting Kevin Kelly? Or he was remembered mostly gave Prince Nassim Ahmed a pretty hard time there. What do you remember about fighting Kevin Kelly?
I thought this guy I'm going to walk through. Definitely going to walk through. I mean, I trained for that fight. I did have a little bit of some injuries where I couldn't really run as much, but I trained for that fight here in Texas. And no, wait, hold on. No, I'm sorry. I trained in Maywood for that fight, but I remember not having really just right-handers. I didn't have southpaws. I couldn't really adjust. I was spun with this one that was like 115 pounder, but I couldn't really get that style like Kelly was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think more than anything, it just threw me off being left-handed and not having the adequate sparring for a fight like Kelly. And so when I lost to him, I felt that maybe this is just my time to call it a career, because I for sure thought Kelly was already shot at that time, and for me to lose to a guy like Kelly, which I thought he was a great fighter, but he has a great punch, because he did put me down in the third or fourth round, but I just felt that maybe this is probably not my time anymore, and I don't really want to get hurt, and I want to keep my brain fine,
Yeah. And Kelly, believe it or not, he's half Latino. If you don't know that, he's half Puerto Rican.
Yeah. He looks Puerto Rican too. Come on.
And like you said, that you almost retired after that fight with Kelly. You did not fight for 2 years after that fight, and you decided to go back in there in 2008 against a guy named Hector Alatorre, and you won that fight in Chicago. Then you fight about 6 months up against Vicente Escobedo, who was up and comer at the time. And what do you remember about fighting a youngster at that time, 19-1, walking in there, and it was in Austin, Texas? What do you remember about fighting Vicente Escobedo?
Yeah, well, now that fight I remember training here in Texas. The sparring wasn't really adequate for me to spar an Olympian, a great up and coming fighter from Golden Boy, mm-hmm. And but I did spar him a few years prior. And I remember whipping him up. I was at another level, and so was he. And so now he's up and coming, and I was on my way out. I was just making a comeback to see where I'm at, because I felt I still had it. And so I'm like, geez. But I didn't have the proper sparring again here in Texas for a guy like Escobedo. And so I took that fight, and I was like, well, whatever happens, happens, and we'll see what happens. So I got dropped in the first round. Then I get dropped in the second round. And so that was really like unheard of in my career. I was really rarely dropped. And so I felt that, then I think I put him down in the fifth round. So it was a really good back and forth kind of fight. But at the end of the day, he won the fight, and it was one of those moments when I got a standing ovation, and when I was leaving the arena, it was like a Rocky movie. Like, I'm totally like Rocky. Plus, this was before Rocky movie. I mean, before the Rocky, when he fights
Antonio Tarver.
Antonio Tarver. Before that, mm-hmm. So. I turn around and I wave, and people just standing cheering me on. Dude, I even had Michael Rosenthal, the writer. Mm-hmm. You know who he is?
Yeah,
he's one of the writers.
One of the writers.
He cried, man. He cried, and that touched me, and I was very, I'm very emotional. I'm a very emotional fighter or person. Right. And I get overwhelmed very easily, because I have a lot of passion, and I broke down as well. But it was out of happy tears, happy tears that I did what I did. I gave my heart to the sport. I did what I did for my people, and that was it for me. I knew that was it. And that's why it was goodbye.
And they respected you, and they cheered for you right there on, before you left the arena, like you said, like you said, in the Rocky movie, like, where they give him his last respects, his last goodbyes for everything he accomplished, everything he did for them.
It was the perfect send off for a fighter, I think.
Right.
I never thought it would be. It was just like you could never. It was a great send off from the fans. It was the perfect send off, and I mean, you've seen it in movies with Rocky fighting Antonio Tarver. Mm. It was just like that. In fact, I think they watched it and they wrote it, because that's exactly what happened.
Once a fighter knows, like, okay, like you said, this is all over now, and you knew it was the end, you knew it was time to hang him up there, what does a fighter go through in the next year or so? I mean, do they go through a depression? Do they go through
Absolutely.
a partying year of being happy that they're retired now? And specifically, what happened to you? How did you take it behind closed doors, saying goodbye to your sport that made you?
I did pretty well with opening gyms here in San Antonio. I opened 2 gyms, and I was doing well. I even had a CrossFit gym. But then it's a city where, it's like at that time it was like the number 2 most obese city in the country. And so it was kind of hard to get people in the gym. It was very, very tough. After my time with the gym, and I was working at that time with Univision as well. After then with Univision finishing their run with the boxing solo boxeo, I did fall into depression. I did fall. There was nothing for me to do. I was like, gee, well, I'm just twiddling my thumbs. I got to look for something to do. And then I'm like, gee, maybe I should come back again. I don't know, man, because that's all I know how to do is I just want to fight. But then at that time, Veronica was like, well, why don't you fight then? If you say you want to fight, then do it. Like, and I don't want to lose the weight. It's too hard. So it's been very hard. And then with my divorce, we divorced in 2017. So it has been hard. I mean, I see her every day. I'm with her every day, but she's moving in a couple of days to the East Coast. So it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for my children, but I'm going to be here for my children as a mother and father. She's going there she was there for me as a young woman, managing me and guiding me. Now I'm doing this for her. I want her to go chase her dreams, and I'm here to take care of my children and guide them. I know that my children know that what I've done, and they've seen the things that I've done, but then they look at me, they're like, Pop, why don't you lose weight? You got a big belly. You were that guy. Wow, you were handsome. It's funny.
And I'm glad that you had that positive. I saw a video that you posted a couple months back on, I think it was, might have been Instagram or something. And you said you're going to start running and get back into shape and do all this stuff. And that's great, man. That's what you need right now at this time, I think,
Absolutely. Although, with this pandemic thing, it had slowed down a little bit. So I
get it.
I've been stuck, but I'm still trying to motivate. At least I'm motivating my kids. I try to stay with them and push them. Even though like my daughter, she was supposed to have the world championships in gymnastics this year, but that was postponed till next year. So they're still training. I mean, even though the gym sometimes may be closed because of the corona thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, she's still training with her partner. She'll come to the house and they're training.
That's your next little champ right there, man. That's going to be the next champ in the family, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my boy too. I mean, even though it's not at a world level, my son is at a state level. He was just named best player in his position in the South Texas region.
There you go.
So, it's a big deal because, soccer is so big. Mm-hmm. And I think, that was a great accomplishment for my boy as well. So, awesome. I mean, his goal is just to go to a university and make a team, be on a university team.
For a while there, the boxing thing was still around you. I think you were doing like some promotional thing for a little bit. Like you said, you were doing the gym thing, and then you were also doing the commentating on solo boxeo for a bit. Are you still open to have boxing in your life somehow? Down the line
Well, yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of things. I want to go back to definitely in LA. I had that already. I had a sweet deal going on in Huntington Park to open a gym. It was going to be about a 2,500 to 5,000 square foot gym, and so it was in the works. But then this all happened, so it just really threw me off, threw everyone off in this world. Now, also, I'm wanting to go to. This is another thing is being in El Salvador and really working with the athletes over there, because the trainers over there really suck, and so I'm sad to say, it's sad, but not. I don't go there to I want to be humble, and so I don't want people to think, I'm going to take their jobs and anything. That's why I need to go on my own, have my own gym, and train the fighters from there on my own, because sometimes there's a lot of envy, and there's like, oh, this guy, he thinks he could control everything because he was champion. I don't want that. I want more to feel like I'm your friend. I'm here to help.
Mm-hmm.
And that's some of the things I need to work on with the people over there in El Salvador.
Oh, that'd be great. And, also I remember you telling me that there was even an arena named after you, which is pretty freaking cool. Not everybody can say that they have an arena named after them in their home country. So
Yeah.
what do you think of that success that you've had for your country, or how that country sees you reaching the heights that you did and doing the things that you do in the way that you do it? What do you think of that, of how your country thinks of you? And, like you said, you want to pay back by going and helping out the kids over there and maybe making the next world champion in the future. But what do you think of your success that you had in your career?
I think it's wonderful. I just I'm actually moving from my home to another home, and we're moving. So I'm looking at some of the things that I have from the city, from the country, from the president, and to know that there's an arena named after me. And I tell my children, because I want them to know and to understand who their father is, because they haven't really seen it here in Texas. They don't know. So, but sometimes they do, because some people, like at my girls' gymnastics, I was at my girls' gymnastics watching her train. This was like in the beginning of the year, and so some lady, she's new. She's just coming from LA, actually, and she's like Hispanic lady, and she's like, and she tells the guy in the front desk, she's like, "Is that Carlos Famoso Hernandez?" He's like, "Yes, that's him." And she recognized me, so it was really cool. Then my daughter saw that, and so she's like, "Who's that lady?" I was like, "She was asking me for an autograph."
Wow.
And so, because my kids don't see that here in San Antonio. They don't know the extent of like when I'm in LA and some parts of LA or in El Salvador. So it's I have to take them. They haven't been there in such a long time because they're so busy with their schedule.
Right.
But I can't wait to take them, and I can't wait to show them. But I do tell them, look, there's an arena named after me. Just last week, this guy wrote a song inspired by me, and it's a beautiful song. And so I try to teach or show my children, that I did something, and I don't want them to think, I'm not doing anything anymore. I was somebody, and I'm still going to be somebody. I'm actually working on trying to get my real estate license here in Texas and in California. So, because after this COVID thing, I don't know with the gyms, how it's going to be with attendance going to, and how I'm going to pay the mortgage or the lease. It's going to be hard. So I have to look at another avenue to make money.
Exactly right, man. There has to be a plan B at all times, And like you said, it's great that you're showing your kids what you accomplished, so they could see as a big motivation is, hey, if Dad did it, I could do it too, and it's in my genetics, so I even have more reason to do it, and there's more of a chance that I can do it because it's in my genes, to be a champion. So that's great, man, and it's great to hear, and it's great to finally hear everything that again, man, from you and from everything that you accomplished and what you did in your career, and hear directly from you. And it's great that you're doing well, man, and you have your head on straight and you have all these goals and plans, man, and it's not everybody could say that, and that's a good thing.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's the thing is, I tell my kids, never stop. And there's the bumps in the road. There's my bump here with not knowing about the gym, and so I don't want to wait too long, and so I need to look for another avenue and look for another way to support my family, because I can't live off my boxing days. That was a long time ago. So I need to make money to provide for them and live.
That's right, man. And like I always ask at somebody at the end, and even though you're going to be here for a lot of years more, how do you want to be remembered as an individual, as a fighter, or what I call the 3 big Fs: your friends, your family, your fans? How do you want to be remembered to the people?
There's this one word that or this one phrase that I always live by, and my kids know it, is perseverance pays off. And I want my fans, my friends, my family to remember that I never gave up. I always tried my hardest, and to this day, I'm going to keep trying to always be the best man I could be, and be the best father I could be, and the best provider I could be.
That's a great thing, Carlos. And, every time I think of your name or even just hear the word famoso, whether it be in boxing or not, every time I think of you, hey, I smile because you were one of the first fighters I ever got to meet in person and got to even hang out with a time or two. And it's been a great thing. And every time I think of you, I always wonder how you're doing, how everything in Texas is, and hopefully when the next time we're going to hang out and get to maybe have a beer together or something. But
that'd be great.
I'm glad to know you're okay. I'm glad to know that, after everything that you've gone through, that you still have your head up. And I'm glad that you're still around. And thank you, my friend, for coming on TheBoxingBar.com and doing this. And, just God bless. And I'm glad that you're still around and doing well, man.
I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much, man, for your kind words, brother.